So you want to make money by reading books out loud. This is one of the biggest things I see on TikTok, on Instagram, promising you can make a ton of money by reading books out loud. And today we're doing a little bit of myth busting and talking about how specifically you can be doing this. So let's break this down for you. Number one, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is not something that you can just jump into and make a ton of money. With this, you do have to be a professional audiobook narrator. That does not necessarily mean you need a bunch of voice training or voice actor training or actor training. It does mean that you need experience, and it does come with the understanding that you are auditioning for these things, and you will likely be turned down for a lot of them, especially at the beginning. Do you need experience for this? Not necessarily, but it does help. You can start from the beginning as a brand new entity in this and work your way up, but this is a business, and you have to keep that in mind as you are going to be doing this and come to it with the understanding that this makes you a voice actor, and you have to kind of approach this from an acting capacity if you're going to be getting into it. Whether or not you're an actor, it's run like a business, like the business of acting, and you have to go through the whole audition process just like everybody else. So let's break this down for you. Oftentimes, authors and publishers will be looking for audiobook narrators. These are people who are going to read through usually a digital file of a book, and you're going to have to read through it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can just straight read it. You can read it with different voices. You might be working with another person, so you may be one lead, somebody else might be another lead. There's a lot of different versions of this, and authors and publishers look for different variations of this. Now, I recommend going to a website called ACX. This is going to allow you to be a voice actor and be connected to Audible and to all these different places. And what happens over on these websites is that you have the ability to go through different projects. So you are going to have samples and examples, and that doesn't necessarily mean things that you are hired for. You don't have to have examples of things that you're hired for, because you don't have to have the work to get the work, but you do need to have examples and samples of it, and you'll be asked to do a test run of it to see if they want you. So you're going to go through and you're going to look at all these different job listings. You're going to make the decision on what is a good fit for you. You may not want to read the spicy scenes. You may want to read the adventure things. You may want to read the younger middle grades books. You may want to read the really spicy adult books. It's entirely up to you what you're comfortable with. You will then be able to read through the projects, read through the information, and then you can reach out to the authors, the publishers, to then do an example or a sample of this. You will at that point be given a small section to read, and they are going to go through and listen to your auditions. So you do in fact have to audition for this. This is going to allow them to decide if you're going to be the right fit for them or not. You're likely going to be turned down for a lot before you get the good ones. And as you start to build up that repertoire of what you've done, you have that portfolio of work, you're going to get hired for more and more and more. Again, it goes back to being a business. You start small and you build yourself up, but you have to be actually dedicated to this if it's something you want to do. This is not something you can come in and say, well, I speak English and I'm going to read this and I'm going to make money, because you're not. You will not be hired for that. It is very easy to see through that. And if you're not good at this, you're not going to get hired for it. You can make pretty good money, but you have to understand with voice acting, this is for finished hours. So not only do you have to be able to read well and do voices and all of those things, but you also have to have professional equipment. You have to have professional microphones. You have to have professional soundproofing. You have to be able to edit these things, and what you're getting paid for is finished hours. That means recording, editing, fixing, processing, exporting, turning in. It is more work than it sounds. If you're doing 6 finished hours, you've probably spent 20 or 30 hours putting into this. So you have to keep that in mind as you're going to be jumping into this world. Now, again, you do have to have the professional equipment, so you're going to have to do some investing up front. So this is something you need to decide if you want to do before you get into it, because you can't just jump into it and see what happens. You have to have the professional equipment or you're not going to get hired, because it really does show inside of those audiobooks. With that in mind, you are going to want to do a lot of practicing. You're going to want to do a lot of work behind the scenes before you jump into this to make sure it is something that you want to make that investment into before turning this into a job. Now, we have talked to several professional audiobook narrators here on the channel. I will link those down below in our audiobook playlist so that you can learn a little bit more about this and about the behind the scenes of this. When it comes to being an audiobook narrator or to read books out loud to make money, you gotta be very specific about how you're going to do this, because it's a business, and because you're auditioning, and because you're going to get turned down. So what are you going to do to get people's attention? How are you going to be doing it? What questions do you need to be asking people when you're going to be taking these jobs? You have to take a lot into consideration before you jump into this. So do your research. Think about what types of things that you want to do. And before you jump into this, I highly recommend that you're practicing. Sit down and record yourself reading things. It can be anything. It can be a website out on the internet. You just read it in a way that sounds effective and engaging. You can try reading other people's books, but do not do anything with the audio because it's actually illegal to record those things unless you are hired to do so. And just practice reading in different voices, reading with expression, the pace that you're going to be doing. You can't talk too fast, you can't talk too slow, you cannot talk with an accent if they do not have an accent. You have to make sure that it is going to be something that is effective for you before you get into this. Now, if you've got questions on how to narrate an audiobook or how to work as an audiobook narrator or different places that you can be getting jobs, go ahead and drop those down below. But this is an overview of how this is going to be working. Again, it is not something that you can just jump into because you speak English and you can read things. You do have to have this done in a way that is engaging, because if an author or a publisher hires you and you're not engaging, the audience, the listeners, are not going to like it. They're going to return it. You are not going to get paid. They're not going to get paid. Everybody's going to get mad and you're going to have wasted your time. So you need to make sure that you have the ability to read effectively. And that's a little bit different than reading in a classroom or reading out loud to yourself. You have to do the work to make sure this is going to work for you. So look at those other videos with the audiobook narrators. They've got some really great information on tools and technology and how it works and the behind the scenes and all the things you need to know. Really important that you watch through those episodes. So again, I've linked those down below for you. And if you've got questions, now is the time to drop those. If you want to get into this world, there are so many opportunities and I've got lots of really great connections. So if you are looking to do audiobooks and you've got really good samples, you got the professional equipment, you're putting out your portfolio and you're looking for beginner jobs or you're looking for things that you can use to get yourself jobs, come to me. I would be happy to help you get it pointed in the right direction for people I know looking for audiobooks. If you want to read some of my books as examples, we can have a conversation about that. I'm happy to help you out with this to make sure that you are getting into this the right way, because we need more audiobook narrators. We need people to do these really great jobs. And if you're that person, I want to make sure you're helped inside of this industry. And as always, we're dropping daily videos to help you navigate the world of publishing to make this your most profitable year ever, from your marketing to your writing to your publishing to your audiobooks. This is the time to drop those questions, and we'll see you in the upcoming episodes.